Hello and welcome to a new episode of Geek Lunch Me. I'm your host Chris. As usual, in front of me you'll see I've got an almost complete set of vintage Kenner Star Wars figures from the late 70s and early 80s. Like a lot of people, I had most of these as a kid and then sold them for a vastly reduced rate, obviously compared to what you'd get for them now. But obviously back in the day, you just outgrew them and let them all go, unfortunately. And I decided that the Kenner figures were a big part of my childhood and were a big missing part of my collection now. And decided I wanted to try and get as many of them as possible. So in this video, I'll be going through and giving you my top tips on how to get a collection sort of as cheap as possible. In the end, this entire collection ended up costing me £7 a figure. Some were a little bit less, some were a little bit more. By the time you average it all out, £7 a figure. And they're all pretty good condition. There's no sort of beaters in here, and there's a few of the rarer last 17 figures, which I'll go into a bit more detail on in a minute. And don't forget, if you like what you see, hit the thumbs up. It really helps us out a great deal. And why not subscribe to the channel? This morning we actually hit 300 subscribers, which is absolutely fantastic. Thanks to everyone that has subscribed. When I started this channel during the pandemic, just to celebrate my love of all things geek, I didn't really know if anyone was going to tune in, but thank you all that have done so far. So without further ado, here are my top tips to put together a Star Wars action figure collection. Tip number 1, set a goal. What is it you want to achieve with your collection? Do you want a full set of every vintage figure release, including all the rare last 17 figures and every variant figure going? If you've got the money for that, then all power to you. But if, like me, your budget isn't going to stretch that far, I recommend setting your sights a bit more realistically. I decided I wanted just one of each figure and that the last 17 were probably going to be out of my price range. I grabbed them if by some miracle cheap enough versions came my way. I wasn't going to go out of my way to collect them. I also decided I wanted Jabba and the Size Neutrals band as part of my collection. I had them as a kid and I absolutely loved the designs of them. Now, the first decent R2-D2 that came up for a good price happened to be the Sensor version, and the C-3PO was the one where you can take him apart just like a Cloud City. I wasn't really bothered which version of these figures I got, as they all look pretty much identical. If you want the original New Hope versions of these two, plus the pop-up lightsaber version of R2, be prepared to hand over a far larger wad of cash. You could, of course, break it down even more. Why not start off with the first 12 figures that were released? You could collect all the Empire Strikes Back figures, all the ones from Return of the Jedi. Maybe just get all the bounty hunters to start with, or all the bad guys, or just droids. There are loads of different subsets you can start with and then expand your collection out from. At the end of the day, there is no right or one way to collect. You do you. As a quick aside, just what are the fabled last 17 figures? Well, a year or so after Return of the Jedi had been released and sales of the main figure line were starting to die down, Kenner released a further 17 figures under the banner of the Power of the Force. This included figures from the older films, such as the Luke and the Stormtrooper outfit, as well as from Return of the Jedi. These figures were produced in far fewer quantities, hence their rarity and hugely inflated prices, particularly the Yak Face figure, which, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think he was released outside of Europe. A loose Yak Face with no weapon will easily set you back the best part of 500 quid. Now, some people will tell you that it should only really be the last 15 figures, as the Ewoks Lumat and Paplu did actually get released on Return of the Jedi card backs. This is certainly borne out in my experience, because I picked them up really cheaply. The only other last 17 figure I have is the old man Anakin Skywalker, who you can also pick up at a very cheap price, for obvious reasons. He's just a pretty crappy figure. No wonder George ended up replacing him. Tip number 2, buy in bulk. I bought all my collection on eBay. You can, of course, go to specialist toy collecting fairs and shops. You'll probably find the cheapest way to do it will be to go through eBay. I found one of the best ways of doing this was to buy bulk lots of figures. They generally give you a far better return for your money. For example, our good old friend Boba Fett tends to command a higher price due to his ongoing popularity. I found he was going for anything between £25 and £40 depending on his condition. I bought him as part of a job lot with 7 other figures for about 30 quid, so you can easily see the savings that are there to be made. To begin with, buying job lots is a good way of picking up lots of new figures. Obviously, as you continue to build up your collection, you'll start to find you'll end up doubling up on some figures. Don't worry about this, as I found you can always pick the best example of the figure you want to keep and then just resell the duplicate on. I found that every single figure resold on eBay and I didn't get left with any duplicates at all. Pretty much any vintage Star Wars figures are guaranteed to sell. Geek Lunch Me does not guarantee your Star Wars figures will sell. Tip number 3, don't fret the yellow. Old plastic tends to yellow as it ages, and the Star Wars figures are no exception. You'll find it particularly affects the white plastics, so Stormtroopers and the like are the main culprits. However, if you watch any of my toy restoration videos, you'll know that you can easily remedy this. This means you can probably pick up yellowed figures a lot cheaper and fix them yourselves with minimal cost and effort. Placing the figures in a clear container along with some hydrogen peroxide and sticking it out in the sunshine will usually return the figures back to their former glory. Here in the UK, you can buy a bottle of hydrogen peroxide for 99p and you can use it again and again. All of the figures you can see here were yellow to some degree, some quite severely, but a quick dip and they're all looking pretty damn good again. It's also worth looking out for figures that just look dirty. Over 40 years, the grind build can build up quite a lot. Now, I always clean anything I'm going to sell on eBay so that it looks its best, but a lot of people don't seem to bother. If a figure looks intact, but it's just filthy, there's a good chance you can get it at a much cheaper price. A quick bath in some hot soapy water and a scrub with an old toothbrush will soon have them looking as good as new. Tip number 4. Repro accessories are your friends. Sacrilege, I can hear some collectors scream. Yes, the subject of reproduction is a contentious one. As I said at the beginning, there is no right or wrong way to collect. Making sure all the accessories that come with the figures are originals is going to cost you big time. If you've got the money for that, then good on you. Personally, I made the decision that repro accessories were okay for me. There is no way I could justify buying a figure for a fiver and then forking out 50 odd quid just to pick up their small plastic weapon, especially when there are spot on looking reproductions for most of the accessories that you can get for a couple of quid each. Now, you can also get whole reproduction figures, but this is where I've chosen to draw my line. I know I'm unlikely to complete all the last 17 figures at their current prices, but I don't particularly want reproductions of them just to look nice in the collection. I'd rather not have them at all, especially as some repro figures aren't even particularly that cheap themselves. You may want to buy repro figures to fill in holes in your collection, and that's fine too. Also, my figure collection isn't going to be sold. It's mine now, and I'll be damned if I'm letting it go. With that in mind, I just wanted a good-looking collection. I'm not planning on ever selling it, so it's not like I'm trying to fool anyone or rip them off with reproduction weapons. Your thoughts on this topic will obviously vary, so in the end, do whatever you're happy with, and don't let others tell you that you're wrong. Tip number 5, patience. Yes, follow the little green guy's advice, and it's a surefire way to make sure you get the most bang for your buck. Don't just grab the first buy it now you see, unless of course it really is stupidly cheap. Take your time, and inevitably you'll end up with the same figure, or better, at a vastly reduced price. It took me about 4 months in the end to put my whole collection together from start to finish. I really enjoyed the hunt and it was really rewarding just to have parcels turning up all the time in the post, bringing me all my nostalgic childhood vibes back. Bonus tip, I would absolutely recommend picking up a pack of these stands for your action figures. There is nothing worse than when you're trying to set them up to display and they are falling over all the time, knocking each other over like dominoes. Believe me, I've done this numerous times. Again, you can pick up packs of stands cheaply on eBay. I would absolutely recommend the small investment. So there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has given you some tips on how to start to put together a collection of your own. Enjoy doing it. Don't forget to leave a comment below if this has rekindled your love of Star Wars figures, or just you had them as a kid and you were looking to start and put something together. Drop some comments below. Let me know how you get on. Until next time, take care and eat geek and be merry.